Good day. As we approach the end of our presentation dealing with the historical books, I just want to now just recap for you some important information about historical narratives. Historical narratives are found throughout the whole Bible. They're primarily they're the primary form of literature found in the Pentateuch, as well as obviously in the historical books. And we also see that in the book of Acts and other places. And there's some things that we need to be aware of when dealing with historical narratives. And it has to do with the basic nature of the historical narratives. As we've already stated, the main genre for the historical books is obviously historical narrative. So the question comes, what is a historical narrative? We're not going to go into detail, but there's some things that we need to be aware of. First of all, a historical narrative is selective, not exhaustive. Now, a lot of times people expect writings, especially for some reason they have this unrealistic expectation of the biblical narrative that's going to tell us everything that we possibly want to know about a particular event or situation. But any of us who are parents or grandparents know that that would have made the Old Testament unwieldy and unuseful. It's like when we have a small child come to us and want to tell us a story, and they begin telling us a story, and they just give us detail after detail after detail about the sun, the grass, the way things smell, what they were wearing, and you finally get around to finding out why is it that they slipped in the mud and fell into the pool or into the pond. And all those details didn't have anything to do with the subject at hand, but they included them. And they drew the story out when just a simple, straightforward answer would have been sufficient. And we find that with any narrative, there was a time that people were thinking the Bible should give more, but any narrative that you write or any story you give, you have to select the important things to highlight and bring to people's attention. If you think about it, if you went about your day and you gave a very detailed account of what you did today, even if you didn't accomplish much, you would find out that if you gave too much details, it would take longer than what you lived to tell them. For example, you could get up and you would tell why you chose which spatula you used, why you picked up that frying pan and chose it and put it on the table, and what rationale you put the temperature at, and then you went to the refrigerator and you say that you opened the refrigerator with your left hand or right hand, and you reached in with your left hand and grabbed the box of eggs, and you brought the box of eggs out, you closed the refrigerator door, you brought the carton of eggs to your table, you opened up the carton of eggs, you looked at the eggs, you counted how many were there, you reached in and selected an egg and put it aside, and then closed the carton and took the carton back to the refrigerator, opened the door of the refrigerator, put the eggs back, closed the door of the refrigerator, went back to the stove, picked up the egg with one hand, aimed it at the edge of the skillet and cracked it, and opened it and let the contents pour out into the hot skillet, and then took the shell and threw it in the trash. Now, me by telling you that probably took longer than what it would have actually taken. So you have to be selective. Well, this morning I had eggs. I fried an egg for breakfast. That's all I need to say. That covers all of that. But you have to be selective in order to tell a story. And so historical narratives are selective. Now, that doesn't mean they're not honest or they're not truthful. It's just that they have to select what's the important highlights for their particular story that they're telling. The other thing we have to realize, especially when dealing with canonical literature, that these historical narratives are descriptive, not normative. When we mean normative, we mean that is something that we have to live by. Descriptive simply means it describes. These narratives describe what happened. described how people interacted and described the situation they got into and how they worked their way out of it or how they worked themselves more deeply into it. These do not mean that that is the way that we should behave. Solomon aggrandized himself by marrying many women. Well, does that mean we should go out and marry many women? No. That's what Solomon did. He followed the customs and the culture of his time, though it was contrary to what we know from other scriptures of what he was supposed to do, but he still just followed that which kings customarily did in that time period. But does that mean it should be a normative behavior for us? Also in war, for example, war, in certain contexts, things happen. In war, people kill each other. But is that the type of normative behavior that we want? No. So anyways, you have to make a distinction between what happened in the scriptures and what God actually expects us to do, or would desire us to do. And just because somebody's dealing with making the best out of a bad situation, maybe they should not have been in that situation to begin with. And so remember, it's descriptive, not proscriptive, not telling us what to do, but telling us what happened. The next thing that we have to bring in, it has to go back with the selective, is that these narratives are intentional and they're thematic in their composition. For example, you have the Joseph saying no to Potiphar's wife, and then and right next to it you have the narrative of Judah his relationship with Tamar, and those two stories happened we don't know if they actually happened chronologically about the same time, but the two stories are right there together, demonstrating a contrast between the character of Joseph versus the character of Judah, and seeing the difference between the two. Furthermore, if we go into the middle part of Isaiah, the chapters 38 and 39, we have Hezekiah battling the king of Assyria, Sennacherib, the king of Assyria. And you have all the scene that goes on there, and after that war is over, you come to the next chapter, and there you have Hezekiah get sick. He appeals to the Lord heals him, and then you have the visit of the diplomats from Babylon. Well, if you look at the keys, the narrative cues that are in the story, you quickly realize that the event where Hezekiah got sick and the visit of the Babylonian diplomats actually chronologically occurred before the war with Sennacherib. And in fact, the war with Sennacherib is predicated upon that visit from the Babylonians. And so it's out of order, but it's done so that it highlights a certain character flaw in Hezekiah on several accounts. But one part is that Hezekiah, on the one hand, is a godly king, but on the other hand, he relies upon his own preparations and his own ways and his own manipulations, and those things get him in trouble and also get the nation in trouble. In fact, had Hezekiah accepted his fate from God the first round, his son Manasseh would never have been born, and Manasseh turned out to be the most wicked and evil king Judah had ever seen. In fact, according to Jewish tradition, Manasseh tried to be a magician one time, and he took the prophet Isaiah and put him in a log and sawed the log in two. Unfortunately, his assistant did not survive, according to Jewish tradition. So we see here that when we look at narratives, the main thing I want you to remember is that do not assume that since the biblical character does certain things, that we are to do the same things. Oftentimes we will realize that other texts, if you're more fully aware of the scriptures, you'll start realizing that other texts point out that this behavior or that behavior is the wrong behavior. And just because a man who may have sought after God's own heart did it, it does not justify us doing it. So we have to always seek to do that which is right in the eyes of God, not in our own eyes, nor in the eyes of the king, nor what people have done in the past. Okay, have a good day, and we'll see you. You'll hear from me in the next section. Take care, and Lord be with. Bye.